Stop the Violence podcast. Well, alrighty then. So, things are a little different right now. I'm not home alone as I usually am while I record. My mommy is downstairs, and I feel slightly self-conscious as well as nervous that she's going to make random noises in the background. So sorry ahead of time if that happens. The other thing is that my pussy is currently bleeding, which means my brain feels like it has 10-pound sacks of weight on it. So I'm gonna do my best to still deliver. We have a couple of intro topics to go over, but I have some lukewarm tea that I'm gonna go warm up, and then we will get started and I will stop being annoying. But today's podcast episode is going to be quite simple, just due to life lately. My more researched episodes are going to be like the next one and the one after that. I'm going to have two researched episodes coming up that you will find informative. But today I'm just going to present my argument for the fact that non-vegans already agree with vegans. It's just the anti-vegan stereotype and vegan hate prevents them from admitting it, and as well as just the fear of change and the fear of inconveniencing themselves and just the apathy and laziness into not wanting to change how they eat or to, use a bit more than 2% brain power when doing daily activities. But yeah, I really do think that even anti-vegans, well, some of them, they still agree with us vegans, My main kind of argument here is that if you are a decent human being who, is just fucking decent, then you already agree with vegans, you already believe in veganism, and you're already on board with the vegan message. So, let's get on started. Children, do you like them? Do you have them? Okay, we have to talk about children for a minute. Bear with me. So I babysit a 6-year-old who is a vegan and who is the son of a friend of mine who is also a vegan veterinarian who I hope to have on the podcast in the future. Look forward to that. But anyway, I did just a little mini interview where I just asked him a couple questions about veganism. I didn't force him to or anything. He was kind of already coloring this thing about veganism, and I thought it might be cool, and I just wanted to play a couple of clips from it because it's really cute. And to me, it just shows that we're all born, maybe not all of us, of course there's exceptions and psychopaths and sociopaths and things like that, but we're all generally born compassionate toward other humans and toward animals, and hate and discrimination and eating animals is all taught to us. The concepts of veganism are very simple, that even a child can understand. The only reason adults struggle with them so much is because of, cognitive dissonance and the ostrich effect and the fear of change and all this stuff. So here we go.
Okay, Avery, what did you write down?
This is a picture of loving animals. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Eat vegan. Check.
Mm-hmm.
Don't kill animals. Check.
Awesome. And can you love animals and eat them?
No. If you eat animals and if you have pets, and if you don't have pets, still you shouldn't eat animals, but if you have pets and you love them and you eat animals, I don't see a difference in that.
So there you go. If you're not vegan and you're listening to this and you're an open-minded, intelligent person, first of all, thank you. But if that's you, Avery urges you to watch Dominion Movement documentary, which is available for free on YouTube or at watchdominion.com. Now, Avery comes along with us whenever we do vigils, which is when you bear witness at a slaughterhouse. We did one this morning. I'll get to that in a minute. And he also comes along when we do grocery store disruptions and when we do marches and protests and cubes and things like that. So he's definitely seen a bunch of clips of, slaughter footage, and he didn't spontaneously combust. He didn't, have a nervous breakdown and stop functioning, He's completely fine. And so that gets me to my little next segue here, which is we did a grocery store disruption recently, and this time I was the one that held the TV. And as I was holding the TV, I went and stood over by the people in line at the deli picking out their meat and stuff. I wasn't trying to target any one particular person, just anyone who's in line, because hello, that's what the disruption is for. We're here to be like, look at what you're paying for. You deserve to know the truth. So I was doing that, and then there were these two parents, and they were in line, and I didn't even barely notice there was a kid, because the kid was like hiding behind their mom and like burying their face in their mom and stuff. And but I was just standing there, and the people will try to ignore you or whatever for a certain amount of time, and then like I noticed this little girl like pop from her mom, like move her face and look at the screen, and then this guy who was apparently her dad got mad at me and said like, stop showing that to my kid. And then the mom got really mad at me as well, and I just said she deserves to know the truth. Well, first I said, well, maybe she deserves to know the truth because hello, they're in line paying for it, so maybe she deserves to know like what you guys are paying for. She's a kid that has compassion, like maybe you should explain to her. And it was just like they acted like I was assaulting their child or like beating their child or something, and they had like the mom, I feel like she just, I don't know, she acted like I was just gonna go like start kicking her kid or something. And I walked away like after just a couple of exchanges. All I said to them was, she deserves to know the truth. I'm not gonna like engage or like try and harass your child, lady. Like, I'm here to speak up for the animals. But my whole take on that is like, they don't have an argument against what we're saying. But if you can't watch the footage, why are you paying for it? And if you don't want your daughter to see the footage, why are you in line paying for it? Like, hello. Another thing too is we came in with a megaphone loud, a bunch of people with signs, like before I started like standing there where you guys are. So if you were like really adamant about sheltering your daughter from people exercising their right to free speech and standing up for animals, you could have like left the store or gone to another section or had the dad like wait in line, and then the mom takes the daughter away. Like, so it's just, I feel like people will act like, oh, you're scaring the children, when they have like all the freedom in the world to literally walk away from us. Like, it's not like we're holding anyone captive, but it's just ridiculous. But people know that if they can go on this narrative that like, oh, you're scaring the children, look what you're doing to the children, blah, blah, blah. They know like that could make us look bad, but it's false. It's like you're trying to set it up that way, and you're being stupid, so stop. And the other thing is really freaking hilarious, because this is all on video, like clear as day. When we were on our way out, as we were finishing our disruption, and Joey was speaking in the megaphone and everything, this man who's with like a 4-year-old, he's walking out, and then he goes in, how there's like a door and then an in-between area and then another door to outside at a grocery store. So he's in that area, and like he walks out of it all slowly while Joey's still like finishing up talking inside. And then he like waits in that in-between area until like we start walking out. And in the video, you can clearly see like Joey and the rest of us just like walking around them. But he literally takes his child and like stops him in the middle of the walkway, and then like puts his arm out and his body out in front of Joey, who's walking around him, to act like we were like trampling his 4-year-old. And it's funny because it's all on video. You can see how he waited for us and placed the kid there and like made this whole dramatic thing and basically acted like we were literally gonna trample over him. And it's just funny. And then, you know, my mom said sorry to him. It's all on video. And then he just goes like on the fuck you. And it's like, oh, okay. Okay, cool. So it just goes to show that they don't have an actual argument against what we're saying in the speech, because all we're saying is facts. You know, they can't justify what's being shown on screen because it's so horrible that it makes children cry and it makes adults not even want to look. So they know they can't argue against that message. So they're just desperately going to try and pull this, like, you're scaring the children. Like, it's just, I don't know. I just thought that was funny and I wanted to mention it. I just want to say to any activists listening to this, don't ever let, like, parents make you feel like you're a really fucked up, horrible person if you're showing, like, slaughter footage in public or something. They're in public, okay? You know, these kids might see, like, almost as violent things on TV, on their phones, on the internet, whatever. Like, I know when I was a kid, I had almost no censorship. You know, a violent movie where someone's getting shot is, you know, similar in a way. So I think that they just get really dramatic. And if you have to cover your child's eye, maybe you shouldn't be paying for it, and maybe you shouldn't be, like, force feeding it to them. Just a thought. But, you know, if you want to cover your child's eye, if you want to look away, if you want to, like, completely shelter your child from the truth and from what activists are saying, like, no one is stopping you from doing that. So that's all I have to say. Now, on a really sad note, and I want to be respectful, but there were, as you all probably know, 2 shootings very recently where one guy went into an Asian spa and shot and killed 8 people in 2 different spas that were across the street from each other. And I don't know for sure about it because, first of all, I'm very weary of the news and the media, especially when they cover things like shootings. So, you know, I don't want to, like, report things as fact, but there's speculation that it could have been motivated by him having a sex addiction, which goes along with the stereotype of, like, Asian massage places giving, quote, happy endings. I think that's where what people are, like, implying about that. I don't freaking know, though. Like, again, I don't really trust the media. They tell you to eat animals, you know? And there's speculation that it was motivated by Asian hate. And, you know, whether it was or wasn't motivated by either one of these 2 things, they're both issues. And the fact that this event, you know, something positive could come out of it, that we're talking about these 2 issues, whether it's, like, men being fucking creeps and massage places trying to make people, like, rub their dick, and just, you know, rape culture and just entitlement that a lot of men have to, like, use women and to be pleased by women and to, like, have them serve them in that way, and then getting angry when it doesn't happen. Like, that is something that we should be talking about. It's really common. You know, I've experienced it myself, and it's dangerous, and it's rape culture. And then Asian hate is a real thing. There's clearly Asian hate crimes, and I need to, like, learn more about this, but a lot of it's motivated by coronavirus and just this whole idea and the audacity to think that pandemics haven't already come from places like the United States and all around the world. Pandemics, like, usually come from humans exploiting animals, and I'll provide resources for that in the show notes to back my claim. I'm not just fucking saying shit. bird flu, swine flu, Ebola, HIV, AIDS, SARS, MERS, and then coronavirus, and the list goes on, of course. They're all from these like live market slaughterhouses, animal farming, or some other exploitative intervention of humans on animals. And the audacity to think that Asian countries are the only ones being fucking animal abusers. The entire world is full of animal abusers. Like, if you think that we're any better, you clearly have not visited a slaughterhouse. You clearly have not visited a live market. Did you know they have live markets and wet markets that are similar to China in fucking literal New York City? Hello? So stop using this as your excuse to be a fucking racist bigot against Asian people. Look at your own backyard. And if it is or wasn't, I guess it doesn't matter. We're talking about it. But the idea of men going into like massage places, whether they're Asian or not, and expecting a happy ending or trying to pressure women into happy endings is really like, I guess it's one thing if someone's like offering that service and it's consensual because, sex work is valid work. But, my mom goes to a massage place where it's all Asian workers, and she witnessed one time this guy go in because they're not like in rooms, they're just separated by like wall separators, kind of like bathroom stalls. And so she could hear all of this, and she has like heard this guy go in and be like, oh please, like my ball is just really swollen, can you please just massage it? And then the worker was like, no happy ending, over and over, and he was just really insistent and trying to like force her to do it. And my mom actually like had to get up and say something to him and like intervene. So if she could have witnessed that in a place where it's not even closed doors, I can't even imagine like what kind of shit happens behind closed doors. And especially like, I'm kind of just speculating here, but I feel like with some of these Asian massage places, I don't know if a lot of them are citizens. I think a lot of them might be here for like just to work. I'm not really sure. I'm just speculating, like I said. But I know, with slaughter workers, their immigration status could be used against them by their job if they, mess up. So I can only speculate that this could be happening with these Asian women too. Like, maybe they have a male boss or a male store owner that forces them to like perhaps do these things when they don't want to. I don't really know. I feel like it's just something that should be talked about. And I feel like in general, like the Asian women that work at these kinds of spas and places and nail salons, I just feel like there's this culture of kind of looking at them like as servants and like more, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? And I just feel like that should have never been a thing like that. I don't know. I just have always been uncomfortable with that. I mean, of course, I'm uncomfortable with any kind of like racism or looking down on anyone. But as a society, we really need to be teaching men that they are not entitled to women's bodies and women are not servants for them. And no means fucking no, and to teach what consent actually is. So, of course, there was also a shooting in Boulder, Colorado, and I'm actually from Colorado, born and mostly raised, if you didn't know. So this did hit home. It was at a King Soopers, and I myself have worked at 3 different King Soopers, not this one. They were in Fort Collins and Littleton. So just to like, I just was so caught off guard when I was on YouTube and I just saw this random clip in like the trending area, and I saw the King Soopers logo and I was like, what's that? And then I was like, shooting? Oh shit. And, I'm really saddened by both of these shootings, but it always hits a little bit differently when you have kind of that personal connection to it. And yeah, it makes me really sad. The shooter in the Asian spa incident was white, and this shooter was, I think, some sort of I think they said he was Syrian, but he appeared white, and he definitely looked white from far away. So, and he killed and shot 10 people, including an officer. And yet, they didn't shoot and kill him, they shot him in the leg. And, he's shown walking away free. And I'm just basing this off of video. I'm trying not to base it off of what media says and stuff too much, because I'm skeptical of media. But I just want to comment that if you can shoot a guy like that who just murdered 10 people, including one of your own officers, in the leg, then why can't you do that with black people instead of shooting them in the head or in the face and just straight up murdering them when they're unarmed oftentimes, and when it's just completely uncalled for, they couldn't have known from far away that he wasn't white. He appeared white, so you gotta kind of perhaps speculate on that. I just feel like it should be the standard to not go for the kill. It should be the standard for everyone. And I don't know. I don't want to talk too much about topics that I'm not extremely well versed on. So I'm going to move on from that, but I'm very sad for all the victims and everyone affected by these shootings, and I hope that they find healing and peace. Really quickly, I have to mention and remind you guys that the new documentary Seaspiracy is out. Definitely go watch that. It's on Netflix, or find another way to watch it. I haven't seen it yet. I'm gonna watch it this weekend with the soy boyfriend. By the way, I didn't go with him when he did the duck transport. Just as a side note, we were having a bit of a fight, and I decided to stay home. I would never want to fight in front of animals and stress them out or anything, and I just needed time to think, and so did he. But the soy boyfriend did complete a transport trip where these ducks were rescued, and they needed to be transported from Woodstock Sanctuary in New York to Barnes Sanctuary in Michigan, then to Iowa Farm Sanctuary in Iowa, to their forever home. So big shout out to all of those sanctuaries, and Hervé at Woodstock, and Lindsay, who's my veterinarian friend that I mentioned before, who's a veterinarian at Woodstock, and to Keegan, the soy boyfriend, for being there and showing up for these ducks. And yeah. This morning we went to vigil, my mom and I, and it was more of the common type of vigil experience. It was sad, but we were able to give a lot of the animals water. It was all dairy cows on the truck, and I got some compelling footage if you want to share any of that, some photos. I found a tail on the sidewalk. We always find body parts scattered around this slaughterhouse in Newark, New Jersey, and it's just it really boggles my mind how people are gonna be so ooh, wear your mask, blah blah blah, but they'll get so angry if someone doesn't wear their mask outside or something ridiculous like that. But they're not getting so angry that there's animal body parts strewn about across the street, down the sidewalk, all across this area in public, when meat comes from literal slaughterhouses and farms, and that's where pandemics come from. And you're not going to be mad about that. You're not going to be angrily posting and shaming people about that. It's just so it's so interesting how people will just blindly ignore such an obvious solution to the whole pandemic thing and prevention, just because they enjoy the taste of fucking shit that you can have vegan versions of anyway. It's so maddening. But anyway, a time before this past vigil, my mom went, and I didn't go this day, but they had a downed dairy cow on the slaughter truck, and they couldn't get her to move. They were kicking her, pushing her, trying to force her up, getting her with the electric prod even, and she couldn't get up because she either had like a dislocated hip or a broken leg or something, because that's what happens to down dairy cows. You take their baby away so many times over the years, and they're malnourished and depleted from you milking them, and they just fucking collapse. And what they did is they slit her throat right there on the truck, and they decapitated her, and it's really fucking awful. And activists were there trying to get footage, including Bobby Physique and J-Lo Kurtz. Those are their Instagram names. I'll link them if I remember, but I'll definitely link the video. Sweet Potato Tyler, he has a good YouTube channel too, and what are they called? Plant Strength. That's Bobby Physique's like YouTube channel. They made a good video about this whole event where this happened to the down dairy cow, and the slaughter workers were attempting to cover the hole so that people couldn't film, and they were literally throwing shit at the activists. They threw shit right in Bobby's face. It's all on camera. It's all on this really well done video, and I'm actually trying to like get Joey Carbstrong to react to this video. I emailed it to him. So if you have a minute, I'll link the YouTube video. It'd be cool if you could like just send it to joeycarbstrong@gmail.com and say, hey, can you react to this on your YouTube channel? Because I would like to bring more awareness and attention to that event, because it's so ridiculous, and the video is so compelling. It's got a really compelling vegan message in it. But yeah, I know that was like kind of a longer intro. I know when I listen to podcasts, I really appreciate intros, like the kinds of intros that go over like current events and what's going down and stuff. So I kind of want to like include that more in my podcast, depending on each different episode. If you have an opinion about that though, let me know. So yeah, now getting into wow. Getting into okay, getting into today's actual topic of the podcast episode, before my brain literally just oozes out of my eye sockets because I'm on the first day of my period and I woke up at 5 a.m. this morning, I'm gonna make my case for why you already believe in veganism. You already agree with vegans, motherfucker. You agree with us, okay? You agree with us, and it's for silly reasons like how your friends are going to view you, and social and societal norms, and tradition, and culture, and convenience, and not wanting to be like us because we're so crazy, and blah fucking blah blah. That's holding you back from just being like, you know what? They're right, and I agree with the values and morals that they're talking about. So yeah, so here we go. If you believe unnecessary harm is wrong, then you agree with vegans. If you believe unnecessary harm is just literally simply unnecessary, then you agree with vegans. If you believe that rescuing dogs and rescuing cats is a good thing and not like a bad thing, then you agree with vegans. When you see like those videos like the Dodo about animal rescue stories, or someone finding a stray dog and nursing them back to health, if you see videos like that and you're like, oh, that's so great, and you think that's positive and not like negative, then you agree with vegans. If you believe oppression is wrong, then you agree with vegans. I mean, oppression is all interconnected. Oppression is oppression. There's obviously the oppression of the animals, and then there's the oppression of the humans. I just found out, because my mom already watched Seaspiracy, that they have slave ships where people are enslaved and forced to fish to meet the vast demand of the trillions of fish. I didn't know that. There's so many different ways in which there's oppression and even racism caused by these animal industries. So if you're against oppression, you agree with vegans, and it makes more sense to be consistent anti-oppression, which means against all oppression, which means not just picking and choosing, only being against racism, but like not being against other things, for example, that just doesn't really make logical sense. If you believe bullying is wrong, then you agree with vegans. We bully the most innocent, vulnerable creatures, gentle creatures like cows and pigs and chickens. Pigs are not as gentle, but especially like cows and chickens. They're so they're not ever going to be able to really hurt you. And they're so forgiving even in their last moments, like this morning. These cows come up to the holes and they sniff you and they lick you like a curious puppy. And they want you to save them and they want you to help them, and it's heartbreaking. It takes a really strong person to be able to go to a vigil, but I still recommend it. At least once in your life, I highly recommend it. But we pick on, you don't see us trying to farm lions. You don't see us trying to farm wolves. Like, humans are such cowards. We're not fucking apex predators. We're cowards that are taking advantage of animals, the most innocent and the most vulnerable and the most unable to fight back, because we're the fucking weak ones. If you believe taking advantage of the vulnerable is wrong, then you agree with vegans. If you disagree with picking on the guy who's already down, kicking him while he's already down, it's just a simple concept that you already agree with us. And if you believe that hate, discrimination, and violence against others based on their looks, their physical appearance, or how they were born or where they were born is wrong, then you agree with vegans. Look up the word speciesism. I'm not gonna act like it's the same as racism or sexism or other isms, but it's along the same principle of the fact that it's an oppression against a certain group of living beings, built on this idea that some lives matter more than other lives. Think of how many horrible things in this world and violence are just born of this idea that some lives matter more than others. That's obviously not to say that you should value a chicken's life over your own human child, of course, but you don't have to. All you have to do is recognize that, they deserve to live, they deserve the right to their own bodily autonomy, and they deserve to not be fucking tortured, because it's needless. Look up the American Dietetic Association statement. Vegan diets are adequate and superior. We don't need animal products. Peer-reviewed science points to this. Visit nutritionfacts.org. So there's no reason to kill that chicken. Leave the chicken alone. And I mention this video all the time, but there's this video of Earthling Ed where this human rights activist comes and disrupts an animal rights event, and he gets really upset and he's like, how come you don't care about the struggles of black people? Why are you fighting for animals and not us? And Earthling Ed's answer to that is really brilliant. First of all, he addresses that you can fight for more than one cause at once, and in fact we all should, and depending on the time and resources we have available to us. But even just being against all oppression is a good place to start, even if you don't have a lot of time. But anyway, and the point he makes is that if we can teach children and future generations not to discriminate against a chicken or a fish for looking different, then they're definitely not going to discriminate against humans for looking different or for having a different sexuality or whatever it may be. And I really think that just makes a lot of fucking sense. Next, if you believe that we should be doing everything that we possibly can to prevent future pandemics, then you agree with vegans. I already mentioned this a bit before, and I'll leave resources about how veganism is going to prevent future pandemics in the show notes. Like, if you're serious about the fact that, like, holy shit, the pandemic, like, took my job and vastly changed my life and, you know, took away so many joys, like going to concerts or sports games or whatever it is that you're into, get togethers, like, if you're sad about the fact that you haven't been able to see your mom or grandparent in several months or even the whole entire year because you're afraid of getting her sick, or you know, your family member is high risk, if you've lost family members to this virus, like if you're even just fucking sick of wearing a mask and you're just sick of the nonsense, then don't you think we should be doing everything we can to prevent future pandemics? Don't you at least want to say that you're doing whatever you can not to contribute to like the main cause of future pandemics? Like, go vegan. It's really simple. You know, we can talk all about masks and vaccines, but why is nobody talking about the root cause? It's maddening. Remember a year ago when everything was getting canceled? We need to cancel animal agriculture. We need to cancel slaughterhouses, live markets, which are in New York City and just all over the United States. Yes, the United motherfucking States. And every single country in this planet, pretty much. Like, hello. Listen to the Cosmic Skeptic's TEDx talk about, he just explains it really well, how animal agriculture is the ideal breeding ground for viruses. I'll link that as well. So next, if you believe that sexual assault is wrong, even though the perpetrator gets a pleasurable sensation from it or some type of pleasure from doing it, if you still believe it's wrong despite their pleasure, then you agree with vegans. Like, that's a really good way to explain what the vegan message is all about. It's just like the 5-minute taste pleasure that we get from eating a chicken nugget when you can get a plant-based chicken nugget that tastes exactly the same or better is not a moral justification for what we do to animals. That's not even to mention that in every single industry, animals are sexually violated and exploited. Joey Carbstrong has a lot of videos about in depth about how both male and female animals are exploited. Like, they put electric dildo things in cattle, like in bulls' assholes, and force them to ejaculate. You know? Like, what the fuck? Which leads me well into this next one, which is, if you think bestiality is wrong, or even if you just think it's weird or gross, then you agree with vegans. I don't really need to explain that one. Now, along a similar line of thinking, if you believe serial killers are doing something wrong, even in spite of the fact that the serial killer gets pleasure from what they're doing, then you agree with vegans. You know, same exact, like, logic. Just because, you know, what's that famous serial killer, Jeffrey Dahmer or whatever? Didn't he, like, kill young men and eat their heads and maybe even rape them? I'm not sure. But he obviously got, like, a lot of pleasure from doing that. And there's a lot of, like, videos where vegans will, like, say that non-vegan arguments sound like, you know, his arguments for what he was doing. But I'll leave you to look that up on your own if you choose. But yeah, it's just basically like, no one would have the fucking audacity to be like, well, you know, not killing humans and not doing this to them and not cutting up their body parts. It's just, you know, there's not as much pleasure in not doing that. You know, you wouldn't defend him. It's just the very extremely simple concept that a physical sensation or pleasure, sensory pleasure, is not moral justification to, you know, rape anyone, human or non-human, to eat anyone, human or non-human, to kill anyone, human or non-human, etc. It's just really simple. So our next one is, if you believe holding others captive and enslaving others is wrong, then you agree with vegans. Like I mentioned earlier, apparently there's literal slaves that work on boats for fishing, so think about that. Human slaves, think about that the next time you have to have your little bit of salmon or whatever the fuck. Like, are you serious? Come on. I always feel like I have to make this disclaimer. You can't compare what's happening to animals to African American slaves. You can't. You're saying a black person is the same as an animal? Obviously, fucking not. All we're saying is that they're both being enslaved. That's it. That's it. You know, that's it. So you already agree we shouldn't be enslaving humans, right? I mean, I don't know why the fuck you'd be listening to my podcast if you don't agree with that. And there's something seriously wrong with you if you don't agree with that. But, you know, I'm just going to assume you agree that enslaving humans is wrong. So just why the fuck not extend that to animals as well? And just also think that enslaving animals is wrong. Very simple concepts being discussed today. And if you're non-vegan sitting there like, what do you mean? We don't enslave animals. You know, farmers love their animals and they eat grass in a field. How is that being a slave? Please watch Dominion. Okay, next. If you believe holocausts and genocides are wrong, if you believe those things are not good, that they're a bad thing, that we probably shouldn't do those things, then you agree with vegans. And, you know, before you get upset, I'm saying Holocaust with a lower H, which by definition simply means mass slaughter. It's basically like a synonym for genocide, not to be confused with the Holocaust with a capital H, which refers to one specific Holocaust of the Jewish people in World War II. The word Holocaust is not just for that. You know, there's been more than one Holocaust of humans. There's been the Armenian people, just to name one. I'm not an expert on this stuff, but what's happening to the animals, you don't have to agree with calling it a Holocaust or genocide if you don't want to. You could call it a mass slaughter, which is literally just the definition of Holocaust. You could just say mass slaughter instead, but at the end of the day, we all know what it is. So if you think, you know, mass brutal killings for no valid reason is a bad thing, if you think extreme violence, burning bodies, putting living beings into CO2 gas chambers, if you think that's a bad thing, if you think piling dead bodies into massive freaking mountains is not a very pleasant, nice thing, you agree with vegans, and it's that fucking simple. Maybe we're not so crazy after all. You know, maybe vegans aren't so bad. If you believe beating a dog or a cat or whatever, if you believe beating a dog is wrong, then you agree with vegans. Very, very simple. If you saw a dog suffering on the side of the road or someone kicking a dog and you think it would be good to intervene and try and stop them, if you would think it's wrong to do those things yourself, then you agree with vegans. And if you would speak up on behalf of that dog and say, hey, stop doing that, then brace yourself, but you agree with vegan activists, crazy people like me. A concept. If you believe in such statements or concepts of live and let live, you know, like live your own life, mind your own business, don't discriminate or hate against people, don't like try and tell them how they can and can't live their life. If you agree with that, then you agree with vegans. With a, is caveat the right word? With a small thing. So, you know, people who say live and let live, they probably wouldn't apply live and let live to like pedophile lifestyles or murderer lifestyles. I think, you know, with the whole live and let live thing, you know, they let other people be transgender and gay and without impeding on their lives and putting hate toward them or putting danger or violence toward them. But when it comes to like, you know, a pedophile who's molesting a child, they probably wouldn't say live and let live. You know, they probably wouldn't, in that situation, just guessing, they probably wouldn't say live and let live. Or for a murderer. Probably not gonna apply live and let live to that situation. So, you agree with vegans, you know, vegans, you think we want to talk to, like, anti-vegan people? Do you think we really want to, like, tell people things that they, you know, do you think we really want to explain to people why killing is wrong? We're doing it because they're harming a victim. It's no different than someone who wants to protect that child from that pedophile or that human being from that murderer. It's just when there's a victim involved, live and let live no longer applies, and it's really that goddamn simple. When we go in grocery stores and say this is what's happening to the animals, don't pay for it, it's not like we're going there saying, don't wear the color yellow, it's an ugly color, or don't wear a scarf, you look stupid in a scarf. I really sincerely hope that you can see the difference. Some people at this point will be like, oh my god, she's so condescending. She thinks she's so much better than me. She thinks she's on the moral high ground. For one thing, you know, being vegan is on a moral high ground than not being vegan. Just like not being a pedophile is on a moral high ground to being a pedophile. Okay, so let's get that out of the way. But if you're a real one, if you're like an intelligent, free-thinking, compassionate, kind human who's open to learning new things and who's not just like stuck in one old ass outdated mindset, then you can hear me and be like, oh yeah, like this actually is a really simple concept. Try and let the guards down and just let the truth seep in. It can seep in gently, you know, if you let it. I don't like being forceful. I don't like yelling most of the time. It's a lot easier if you could just be open-minded to like having an intelligent exchange of words with another human. Next, if you believe in compassion, kindness, you know, the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated, peace on earth, positivity, like any of these things, then you agree with vegans. Now, it's one thing to be preaching kindness and compassion and positivity and all that kind of stuff and be paying for animal products because, you know, you thought you had to. You know, you've been programmed all your life to think you have to. Told in every TV ad and by even your own doctor that you have to. Doctors which don't take nutrition courses, by the way. But I digress. You know, if you think you need it and you've never seen like what goes into making these products because these industries hide it and lie, then you know that's one thing. But once you hear me, like if you're listening right now, you can no longer use like that ignorance excuse. And at that point, if you're still paying for these products after knowing like the reality of, say, the dairy industry, you know, I have this whole episode about toxic positivity that you can listen to that relates to this. But it's like you're being a raging hypocrite if you don't go vegan at that point. Like, peace begins on your plate. It's again, extremely simple concept. Compassion. Take like 15% of that compassion and love and, oh my god, look at that puppy, when you see a dog, and just give like a little bit of it, maybe even just 2% to animals that aren't dogs, such as cows, pigs, turkeys, fish, chickens. Like just a small fraction of that, and just, you know, expand it to them. Like, what's bad about more compassion? What's bad about compassion for animals that aren't dogs? Hello? Next, if you believe that climate change is a real thing that's happening, even if you don't, let's just hypothetically say you don't believe climate change is a real thing, you could even like take that down a few steps to like if you believe littering is bad, if you believe like trashing national parks or plowing down forests is like, not a nice positive thing, if you believe ocean dead zones and killing our coral reefs and getting rid of all of our wildlife and having only like 4% left of like the redwood forest here in America, if you think like things like that, pollution in the air, if you think that those are not good, if you think that those are not pleasant, positive things, then you agree with vegans. Don't beat yourself up if you didn't know this, because I went most of my life not knowing this, but a main contributor to pollution and climate change and ocean dead zones and species extinction and rainforest deforestation is animal agriculture industries, as well as destroying our ocean. Watch Cowspiracy, watch Seaspiracy. Do your research. At this point, it's widely known more and more that a plant-based diet, or at least moving more towards a plant-based diet, is the single biggest thing you can do to help the environment. The single biggest thing you can do to help the environment is go vegan. And I'll link the peer-reviewed study that backs my statement, Joseph Poor, Oxford University. With what we know now, there's just no way that you can be an environmentalist and not be vegan. That's it. That's literally it. So if you, the next thing is, if you believe like planet Earth is a nice thing that, you don't want to destroy, if you believe that you want there to be an Earth for future children and grandchildren whatsoever, if you believe that just anything of that nature, if you like nature, if you like hiking, if you like going to the park, going to the lake, if you like fresh air, if you like grass and, bodies of water and mountains, and if you like even slightly like any of these things, and I don't think I've ever met one single human that doesn't, at least to some degree, like nature, and even if they like to stay indoors, I don't think I've ever met someone that was like, I want to destroy the planet, except for maybe like weird dudes that want to like drive the most pollutable truck to piss off liberals or like people like that. Then I've never met anyone who like wants to like literally destroy the planet on purpose. So you're probably not that guy. So you already agree with vegans. If you believe slaughter footage is just too hard to watch, you look away, you can't handle it, you would never like go watch it out of your own free will, you think it's like negativity you don't need in your life, it's not good, well, you agree with vegans. Because we think it's so negative, we think it's so unneeded, that we actually want to stop it from happening. Because the funny thing is, when you look away from something, that doesn't mean it's not happening. That just means you're not looking at it. And that's not a way to solve any problem. Very simple concept, once again. And, I kind of mentioned this before with the parents of the kid in the grocery store disruption, but if it's not good enough for your eyes, why is it good enough to put inside your body? If you can't watch it, you have no business paying for it. Like, you have no business paying for it either way. I mean, if you refuse to even watch a video with a gentle vegan message that doesn't even show anything graphic, like, you have no business paying for it. If you can't even do that. Like, come on. If you believe in freedom, if you believe in justice for all, then you agree with vegans, And stop trying to act like we're trying to take away your freedoms. You can get a vegan burger, you can get a vegan pizza, you can have a vegan cookout, grill, sesh, whatever the fuck. We're not trying to take any of that shit away from you. There's a vegan version of it. Like, get over it. Come on. Like, why do we have to live in this culture and perpetuate and continue this culture where we celebrate freedom by taking away the freedom of others? Like, fuck that. If you believe in justice for all, just justice for innocent beings, whether they're human or non-human, if you believe, my innocent cat doesn't deserve to be like tortured and abused, if you believe like your dog doesn't deserve to be chopped up and eaten and served on the table, if you believe people shouldn't go to jail for things that aren't even wrong, such as rescuing animals or having a freaking marijuana joint in their car, just simple things, or if you believe people shouldn't be like wrongly convicted and persecuted and killed for things that they didn't even do or things that aren't even like wrong, you agree with vegans. If you believe that there shouldn't be world hunger among humanity, if you believe that there shouldn't be like humans on this earth that don't have access to clean drinking water, then you agree with vegans. I actually have an episode coming up, either the next one or the one after that, about water use and water footprint and how you can make an extremely massive impact on your water footprint by going vegan. Like, it's insane how much water goes in to non-vegan products. 1,800 gallons of water goes into 1 pound of beef. You're basically taking perfectly good drinking water away from, like, forget other countries for a minute. What about like Flint, Michigan, and places in our own country that don't have drinking water? You're saying fuck you to them and saying give that drinking water to these animals so that I can be gluttonous and eat them when I don't have to. It's the same thing as like we reduce our land and resource use by 75% on a vegan diet. And these animals, when they're being raised, they eat pounds and pounds and pounds of food that we have to do monocropping and grow, the soy and the corn, the food that we have to clear rainforests for cattle ranching and to grow the food to feed all these billions of animals. Billions. There's 70 billion land animals that we feed and slaughter every year, and there's only 8 billion or 9 billion humans, of which 2 billion just about, or maybe less than that, are actually starving. Hello, we're already growing more than enough food. Like, I know it's not that simple. I know that there's politics and countries and all that bullshit involved, but to act like we don't have enough food for us to be vegan is ridiculous, and to also act like we don't have enough food to feed starving people is really just completely a joke. It's a joke. And buying a steak is saying like fuck you to the starving children. You're saying like fuck you, like your starvation is not as important as my gluttony and my 5-star meal that I don't need to have, that I can have a vegan version of. If you look into it, water is going to become, as time goes on, an extremely valuable resource. It already is. Might want to go vegan. Again, we're going to have a whole episode about that coming very soon. Did I mention that animal agriculture is worse for climate change than all of transportation combined? I don't think I did. Just want to throw that in there. Fact check me on it. I don't care. Okay, next. If you believe in truth, honesty, transparency, if you think that like being lied to and being deceived are not fun, positive, great things, and you would rather know the truth about things, then you agree with vegans. I really don't think this one needs much explaining at all. Like, vegans, as a vegan activist, my job is to tell the truth and help animals, and that's it. That's it. I just want to tell you guys the truth. That's it. If you're against fake news, if you are, weary of what the government and the media tells you, me fucking too, you already agree with us vegans. If you believe in, like, independent research, or I don't know if that's the right word, but just legit research, backing yourself with like peer-reviewed science and just legitimacy. I don't know. I'm getting kind of tired here, but the point is, if you don't want to live in a fucking lie, then you agree with vegans. Because all we want to do is expose the truth and get people to like change accordingly. And the last one, at least the last thing I have written down if I don't think of anything else, is if you love amazing fucking bomb-ass tasty food and drink, so do vegans. So you agree with vegans. You can veganize any recipe that's near and dear to your culture or in your family. You know, vegan burgers, vegan pizzas, vegan cultural foods, like vegan freaking creamer for your coffee, vegan cheese, vegan everything. Just figure it out. Figure out what you like. Make it yourself, you know? It doesn't even have to be expensive. It's kind of just as simple as learning how to season and make sauces and throw shit together. That's it. And don't come to me with, I can't afford it, and I live in a food desert and all that, because if you're listening to this, this means you have access to the internet, either YouTube or Spotify, and you're paying a phone bill, and if you can pay a phone bill and have access to the internet, you're probably living in a decently well situation to where you can afford a budgeted vegan diet. I mean, the cheapest food at the supermarkets are beans, rice, produce, lentils, pasta, etc. So now that I've gone over just some of very many things, I could think of a lot more, but this is just kind of what came to mind when I was brainstorming and prepping for this episode. I want to kind of leave you to ponder, okay, so after hearing all of this, if you still want to be anti-vegan, if you still want to disagree with vegans, like, what kind of person does that make you? Like, really? I want to, like, actually pause and give you, like, a moment, especially if you're not vegan yet, to think, okay, think about the things that we talked about. Think about, like, the values and beliefs that I read off to you, and think, like, okay, so if you're anti-vegan and this is what vegans believe in, then what kind of person does that make you? Yeah, not very fucking good, is it? Not very fucking good at all. I mean, that the leftover is people who think like violence is a good thing, like unnecessary violence, who want to commit mass slaughter, you know, like freaking shooters, Hitler. I'm not saying like people who are still eating animal products are on the same level as shooters or Hitler, but I'm saying, like, you know, if you disagree with vegans, you should probably reevaluate that, because you're kind of, you know, whatever. Put two and two together. You know, that leaves people who think it's okay to rape, people who think it's okay to enslave others, human or non-human. We talked to a truck driver on our road trip who was hauling livestock, who said that if there were human slaves, he would drive them to wherever they needed to go. I'm not even kidding. I have it on video. I can link it if I remember, you know. If you don't agree with vegans, then, you know, you're going to be like on the side of people who think hate and discrimination and racism and sexism and all of these things are wrong. You know, if you don't agree with these things, if you don't agree with vegans, then you want there to just continue to be destruction of the planet. You want there to continue to be pandemics. You want to be like beating and torturing cats and dogs. You think it's chill and cool to be a serial killer and a murderer, you know, etc., etc. You know, these are the kinds of, I'm painting this picture of you of like, you know, we went over a lot of points Just think, what's left over? If you don't agree with these points, what's left over? What kind of person are you? You know? Process it. Figure it out. Anyway, that concludes this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Look forward to the next couple of Stop the Violence podcast episodes where I don't know which one is going to come first, but we have one coming up where I'm going to go over the facts of Seaspiracy and go over that in general after I watch it. And then we also have a good researched episode about the water use of animal agriculture and like how much water each animal kind of uses and water footprints and reducing our water footprint. Get out there and be a voice for the animals. You can go to vigils, you can go to disruptions, protests, cubes, whatever is like within your ability and depending on where you live and your whole situation and how much time you have. Speak up for the animals. Don't be afraid, be motivated. Go vegan if you're not already. Watch Dominion. Listen to the TEDx talk, Every Argument Against Veganism, as well as Cosmic Skeptics' new TEDx talk about pandemics. I'll have them linked. If you're on Spotify, definitely tune in to my YouTube channel, ALISIA space DEMI. Give it a subscribe. I have the podcast on there as well. And I also have vlogs of, what an animal rights activist life is like. I also have things on there like spiritual awakening, meditation, music, art, yoga, having ADHD, mental health, depression, personal development, shit like that. Follow the podcast right now wherever you are listening to it. Give it a review if you so choose. I think reviews are like on Apple, so if you're on there, totally do that. It would mean a lot to me. And you can definitely follow Stop the Violence podcast on Instagram. I always post a 1 to 2 minute preview of each episode so you can figure out like if you want to tune into this episode or not, because I get it, like with podcasts sometimes the topic is just not interesting or you already know about the stuff, so it's kind of helpful to have those previews and also those reminders that like, hey, I exist and like I work really hard on this podcast and I'd love it if people listened. And also, if you are on YouTube, just know that you're probably like at least a month behind. Episodes are way more updated on Spotify, Apple, and Anchor. I always put that in the description, but just in case, keep it in mind. I'm working on catching that up. And yeah, more road trip vlogs are coming as well. I think I'm blabbering at this point, but I hope you have a beautiful day. Hold on, I just thought of one more thing that I forgot to say earlier. Actually, you know what? I don't even know whether or not I said this earlier. I'm gonna just go ahead and assume I forgot though. So at Vigil today, the truck driver who was the same truck driver that got all pissed at Bobby, who I mentioned earlier, was now being like so nice to us, because in the video of Bobby's you can tell that he speaks to him, and he speaks to him very like calmly, kindly, and respectfully, like, hey, we're not judging you, man, we just look at it from the victim's perspective. And I think that really planted a seed, and he helped me give water to the animals this time, and he was being like overly nice to us. You could be weary and be like, oh, okay, he's just trying to make himself feel like a good person or put on a show. But I think to some extent a seed was planted. And if you can plant a seed in someone like that who literally drives animals to their deaths, then you can plant a seed in everyone. So don't be too discouraged. Ignore anti-vegan nonsense comments. I don't even like answer comments anymore. One of the best decisions I've ever made. So yeah, if you have anything important to tell me, DM me on like the Stop the Violence podcast Instagram. Okay, I'm fucking tired. I don't know why I'm still talking, but I love you if you listen to my podcast. Bye.